name is Obi Okereke, the Vice President for Education. And today on the panel, I have some members of the university senior leadership team, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Thanks, Obi. Shall I go first?
Yes, please.
So my name's Professor Guy Daly. I'm Deputy Vice Chancellor for Education and Students. Great to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation again. These events are really helpful as far as the university's leadership team is concerned. It does provide us with an opportunity of the conversation with you, exploring the issues that students are facing, and hopefully providing a response this morning, but also when there are occasions when we don't necessarily have all of the answers at our fingertips today, then we will take them away and then bring them back and feed back to colleagues. So thanks once again. I'll hand over to in the order that it's in front of me, if I may. So Richard Dashwood, my DVC research colleague.
Hi, well, yeah, you've introduced me there. Professor Richard Dashwood, Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research. I'm here because I have responsibility for all of the postgraduate research students. So ultimately, it's my fault when things go wrong. So I'm here to answer questions around the research students.
Donna?
Hand over to Donna.
Thank you. I'm Donna Kendall. I'm Pro Vice Chancellor for the Student Journey, and I'm here to answer any questions in relation to that student journey. Thanks, Guy.
Lovely, thank you. And I think we do now have Steve Galliford, who's been able to join us.
Had a little difficulty, but yes, thank you, Guy. I'm Steve Galliford. I'm the Dean of Postgraduate Studies, so I look after all the postgraduate taught students, so students on postgrad certificates, diplomas, or master's courses.
Okay then, thanks for the introduction.
This question is from a student, and it says, what support would the university be giving to international students who can't travel back due to COVID restrictions in December for the holidays, such as food banks or meal tickets? How will the university support?
Yeah, thanks, George. So I think that we'll be looking to ensure that food is provided, obviously, in all of our own student accommodation. And Donna's mentioned Obi, who is the Managing Director for Future Let's. So he's ensuring that. We've already got in place things like arrangements with the co-op to deliver food through Deliveroo, but also not just ensuring that there is food available within our own accommodation, but also other private landlords and private accommodation. And also we will put in place, have in place, similar to when we had lockdown in March, April time, the provision of food for those people who are suffering hardship, as it were. So we did that with the local food banks last time, and we're setting up similar such arrangements for this time, and particularly over the Christmas period. We're acutely aware that there will be people who will be staying in Coventry.
I'm currently living in a university-owned hall of residence and don't feel my accommodation is COVID secure. Can students be released from their tenancy agreements should they decide to move fully to online study?
Okay, so I'll do the initial response to this one. First of all, if it's a university-owned halls of residence, then we are confident that it is COVID secure. We put the necessary steps in place for that. So that includes things such as management of who comes into the halls, that people can't stay overnight, that people, obey the rule of 6, that we have sufficient regular cleaning of the areas, etc., etc. Having said that, if a student wishes to be released from their tenancy agreement, then we have control over that if it's our own accommodation. So it is something that we would have a conversation. We mentioned Obi, our the managing director of Future Let's. We talked to him about. We did. We made an assurance, a guarantee that at the beginning of this academic year that if students rented from us and then we went into lockdown and all that sort of stuff, and that people couldn't use the accommodation, that we would give them rebates and what have you. We don't have that control over private landlords, unfortunately. So all we can do with private landlords, including those that we subcontract to, is to try to provide influence and pressure for them to do the right thing, as it were. And we have some success with that, but not always. So it does depend on who your landlord is. If your landlord is the university itself, then we would, very much consider the circumstances, and we have certainly allowed people to be released from their contract. It is more difficult if it is a landlord that isn't the university, if it's a private independent landlord.
What happens if you don't get with your bubble, that is the people you live with in your flat, or most of them have gone home? There's a real issue here with isolation. Unlike families and friends, most students have had no choice in their bubble.
I'll start on that one. I mean, we are acutely aware that particularly for first years, that often one's university experience for one's first year, you're just thrown together with people you've never met before. That is challenging in any year, let alone in this year. So we, and also where some students have gone home, so there's a reduction in number, is also an issue. I think what I would say is, I need to take that one away in terms of how we deal with that sort of reduction in bubbles and everything. Discuss it with Obi, unless other colleagues want to come in on that one, because I think it is a real issue. As is, I noticed in the chat another sort of follow-up question in terms of the releasing from contracts and the requirement that you have to find somebody who will take on your contract instead of you. I think, again, I'll take that back to Obi, particularly in relation to our own contracts, our own tenancies.
Students are asking if the university will provide food and other necessities should students need to self-isolate in university-owned accommodation, and will they provide the same service to those in privately owned halls of residence?
Yes. Yes, we will, and indeed we did. When we had lockdown, yeah.
Students, especially sports clubs, the big sports clubs that we have, like football and rugby, have really questioned the universities or the sports centers' willingness to charge the same amount of money that they charged last year. That's the 45 quid a membership to be able to use the university facilities, the sports facilities, but not willing to give us adequate or services with regards to access to more of the facility. And I'm talking about Westwood here because the university are willing to, the sports center or the sports facilities are willing to get us to pay 45 quid, but at the same time, they're only restricting us to just one pitch or just one part of the pitch. Bearing in mind that if we resume training for these big sports clubs on Monday, and then you're having to give them only just one little section of Westwood, how do you expect them to spread out and maintain the COVID guidelines and social distancing and all of that? Considering that so many people would want to play football or play rugby. What we got from the management at Westwood was that they are prioritizing external users over the university students. And we've seen it in other universities that they are having to, is it something that you guys are willing to do to close down or to stop external users and prioritize the students so that we could give them adequate services? I don't know, because all the universities are doing it.
Sure. That's something that I'll need to look into because I have to say that I'm not aware of that. So that's not to say it's not happening. Obviously, what I take on board what you said. But my understanding was that Westwood was open for outdoor sports. Hadn't appreciated the limitations of that. If there are any more limitations to that, apart from the ones that you've outlined, then can you drop me a line on that, and I'll come back to you.
Okay.
There are many students who are not aware of how to access mental health services. What can the university do to promote these services better for students?
Yeah, I'll take that one if I can, Guy.
Thank you.
That's really interesting for me that comment has been made, because I would be delighted to hear from students what more we can do to promote. So if I just give you a flavour of some of the promotion that we do, and then you can come back to me on what more can be done, because obviously it's a really, really important service, particularly at the current time, and we're totally committed to making sure that
I'm not sure Donna's frozen.
It's frozen.
Technical difficulties.
Maybe kill the camera, Donna.
some ties on students. We also promote Connections Matter. Sorry?
Your signal's not great. Maybe kill the camera.
We didn't get the last.
Yeah, I'll kill the camera. So is that better?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay, so we promote it through staff and student portals. We promote through Connections Matter. Guy talked about Lisa Bayliss Pratt pushing out information on Connections Matter. We talk about it through our online induction. We've got digital and hard copy literature, both for staff and for students. And also we've got referral routes via accommodation providers, and also via our protection services. So we feel as though there's quite a lot we do, and we should do, but if there is more that we can do, we're all ears. We're absolutely all ears.
Okay, so thank you for the answer. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining to this session, and the panel, the attendees. So the answers to each question, we'll distribute them on social media, YouTube, and all our channels. So thank you everyone for joining, and have a nice weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Thank you, Obi. Thanks, colleagues.
Thank you.
Bye.